This is INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
Radio South Central States. I am Arnie J.B., your host for today. And unfortunately, Nate is not here today, so it will just be me. But I do have a special guest. So, special guest, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody viewing. My name is Brother Andre Silva. I'm here in the District of South Central States. Glad to be here to support INCRadio, this district, and INCRadio in general.
Well, welcome, Brother Andre. So, we're going to be talking about your decade in Africa.
I was there for a decade?
You were there for a decade.
Yeah, that's a long time.
So, since you were there for a long time, my question is, did you learn languages over there, and what different languages did you learn?
Yeah, we learned some of the languages, mostly just small talk, like in South Africa, the way you greet someone. In the language of Sesotho is, you say Dumelang. When you go to another country like Zambia, the way that you greet people there is Bolivwaj. So there's a lot of different languages in Africa. But, we get accustomed to learning their language, and the brethren love it when you learn the language and use it. But in turn, they also learn some of our languages, like Filipino and other languages that we use in the church. So, pretty cool.
So what's like a phrase that is common over there in different languages?
Really, it's just the greetings you'll hear very often. Like I mentioned, they say Dumelang, thank you. In South Africa, it's Kealibola, and also Siyabulela, right? And then when you go to Zambia or Malawi, then you can say, for thank you, they say, Kumukhambi. Thank you very much.
Wow. How long did it take you to learn all that?
Actually, it didn't take too long because, when you communicate with the brethren, the people there in general, they use those phrases very, very often, so you catch on to it very quick. And like I said, they're very happy when they see that you're making an effort. You're making an effort to learn their language, to communicate with them in their language, and so it helps bridge the gap, basically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So for today's question that we are going to pose on our chat is we're going to ask people if they've actually been to Africa, and if not, if they would go to Africa, where they would want to go. So let me ask you, where in Africa did you actually live?
In my 10 years in Africa,
I was blessed to be assigned in different countries. When we first arrived there, it was South Africa, 5 years. We also lived partly in Lesotho, which is the mountain kingdom of Africa. Then we also lived in Malawi and Zambia. Now, just to give you a better idea of where these countries are, because some of you might be thinking, what are these countries? I've never heard of these countries before. It's south of the Congo, south of Kenya, south of Tanzania, which is Eastern Africa. And so we were in the southeast region of Africa. And, again, it was an amazing time to be there. 10 years, we visited different countries. Not only living in these countries, but we visited other countries, such as the ones that I mentioned, Kenya, Congo, also Uganda. And there's this country that was called Swaziland when I got there, but they changed the name. It's now called Eswatini. So we were able to visit those places. And, the work was so vast, and it was an adventure, to say the least.
So of all the places, where would you say you enjoyed living?
Not to have any kind of favoritism, but The one of the places that we really loved was Zambia. That was the last, maybe because that was the last place that we stayed, and we stayed there for a while, and made a lot of friends. Saw the church grow, from its very humble beginnings. Um, you know, uh, for the first chapel of the Iglesianicristo was built in that region in the district of southeastern Africa. But we also have chapels in Malawi now. But I think Zambia was one of the ones that we really loved, mainly because the people there are so friendly, accommodating. And kind of like in the Philippines, you get that warm welcome, and that's what we felt there in Zambia. And it was a good time to be there.
So you were mentioning that they have chapels like now at different places.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like which one's like the most interesting and your experiences while there?
The most interesting one, I would say, the one that sticks out in my mind of the ones that we were involved in building, because when we first got to Africa 10 years ago, we had one church building there, a church or a chapel, house of worship, if you will, there in King Williamstown. And then, 10 years later, I think we have like over 10 chapels in Africa. The one that sticks out in my mind is the one in Lesotho, there in the mountains. Um, it's the only building within a 50-mile radius.
Mhm.
And so, the people there in the mountains are like, well, what is that? What does that build? There's a building up here, and it's a beautiful chapel. The way that it was designed as well is we wanted to make sure that the chapel wouldn't stick out too much. We wanted it to be a part of the environment. And so when it came to uh, the outside of the chapel, there's a lot of stone cladding that's done on the chapel. And those stones came from the mountain itself. So, I mean, it's a beautiful chapel, very up to date for it being in such a rural area. And it was a challenge to get all the materials up there as well. Traveling to and from the chapel projects that we had. It was a great blessing to be a part of it.
So you said that it's like one of the buildings there where there's hardly anything there.
Yeah.
So were people just like curious and stop in just on random times just to check it out?
Absolutely. We have other villages that would come to find out what the place is. Even during the chapel dedication, when all of the brethren were there, we had brethren from different parts of the world come to visit, and so all the villagers were also trying to chime in to the celebration. And so it was amazing. You see these villagers coming in on their horses. They usually do like this screaming thing where they go, "La, la, 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 la," and, which basically it it basically tells everyone how happy they are. It's their way it's the way that they express their joy. And so it was just really a blessing to have that chapel there at the local congregation of Hafachani. Look it up, Hafachani.
That's pretty cool. So when you just made that noise, it just reminded me of something your son did. Like when there's a birthday greeting or something, isn't there something that he yells out?
Yeah. Sangalala.
That's the
when
one.
you yell Sangalala, that means smile. And so, my kids every day they ask, "Are we ever going to go back to Africa, Dad?" They really loved it there, and like I said, my family and I were so blessed to be entrusted that kind of assignment, and we really, really enjoyed our time there. And my family, my kids were born there. Our kids were born there, so it's what they know.
Mhm.
So they still, they still dream about Africa until now.
So how, because I know raising children here in the US is totally different. So how, what were the challenges or what was easy about raising the children over there in Africa?
Well, I would say what made it different was it was more simple. Life in Africa is a lot more simple than here in, say, the United States or a developed country, right? In Africa, everything is very simple, very simple. So my kids, they grew up in a simple life. And from what I see, they really appreciate even the small things. When we first got here to the U.S., uh, I took them to Walmart,
Mhm.
and my kids were like, "Wow!" They just kept saying, "Wow!" Even our 2-year-old, "Daddy, wow!" Because they're not used to seeing the abundance of everything.
Uh-huh.
There's just a great abundance of everything here in the U.S. In Africa, everything is just the right amount. Everything is just simple, and so that's what my kids are used to. Our kids are used to. But again, they're we're blessed to have that experience, and I think it makes my kids or our kids, me and my wife's kids, more appreciative. They appreciate everything, even the small things. Yeah.
So you were talking about stores, and you had mentioned something about how the markets there, how they operate and what they
Yeah.
do. So tell our viewers
You know,
that.
you know, in the rural areas, like the ones I mentioned, Lesotho, right, the Mountain Kingdom. It really is a kingdom of mountains, right? These villages are often out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
There were times when we had to officiate the worship service or the Bible studies. We would have to get on a horse and travel 2 hours up and down 5 mountains
Hmm.
before we would get to the village where we were to officiate or conduct the Bible study or whatnot, right? Or the EVM, the Evangelical Mission. Now, uh, how do these villages get the supplies that they need?
Yes. How did they?
Right. And so I remember on the trail, I'd be on my horse, going up a mountain, and then we would uh, uh, cross paths with a donkey or a mule,
Hmm.
right? And it would have nothing on it. I was like, hey, is that I was asking my interpreter, my translator, who is now in the ministry. I said, hey, brother Zach, is this mule, is this a wild mule? Do you guys have wild mules here in the mountains? He's like, oh, no, 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 no. That's part of this particular village. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so we would finish doing what we were doing in that village. And on the way back, we would cross paths with that mule again.
Uh-huh.
But now it had all of these goods that are, stacked on top of this mule that was going to the mountains alone.
Okay.
They had,
They had no guide,
had
nothing.
no guide, no person trying to guide it or anything. It was just by itself. I was like, isn't that the same mule that we've seen? What's all these things on its back? I said, oh, yeah, it went to the market to pick up the goods for the village and then it's bringing it back.
Hmm.
I was like, so it doesn't need a guy. He's like, no, it does that every day. I was like, all right. Glad to know that they're getting support from the mules over there. So it's
So
pretty interesting.
so it's self-guidance then.
Self-guided, it's like the Tesla of mules. It drives itself, I guess. But yeah, it's very, it's very, a very good experience to see those kind of things that you never knew would even cross your mind.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, they have that here.
Well, speaking about mules, because I know in Greece, that's
Yeah.
how people travel is by mule.
Right.
While you were in Africa, what were your different modes of transportation?
Um, in the beginning, when we first got there, the work that was entrusted unto us by the church administration was the work of propagating, progressing the church. And so we would get around using public transportation at
Hmm.
times. Now, their public transportation, um, there in Africa, they call them taxis.
Okay.
But when you say taxi, right,
Mhm.
what comes to mind? A yellow car with a with a light on
Black
top.
black checkered.
Yeah, black checkered, a driver, asking you, oh, where you want to go, right?
Uh-huh.
But in Africa, it's not that way. They're more like they operate more like buses. They have a route,
Okay.
but they're not buses. They're vans,
Okay.
and so you just hop on, and it takes you on this route, and you get off when you need to get off.
Okay.
So that's what they call taxis.
Okay.
And oftentimes, these vans are, I wouldn't even say they're full size,
Uh-huh.
but you're packing those vans with, 20 people.
So people hanging off the side and everything.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And so that's basically the main mode of public transportation there.
Okay.
Pretty much the only mode. But recently, before we left Zambia, they had one of those transportation services, something that let you see where you get the app and
Mm-hmm.
you schedule a pickup.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have that now.
Okay.
That just came out there in Zambia. So um, it's getting they're coming up to speed.
Okay, they're advancing.
They're advancing. They're progressing.
Okay,
Yeah.
but when you went up to the mountains, there's no way those taxis were going up those mountains.
There were taxis going up,
Oh.
but like I said, they were rural areas, and so they only have one taxi going up and down
Okay.
that route, maybe once a day or once every other day. So the main mode of transportation in the mountains really is horse. You'll see everybody on horses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you were getting up
And that's
to
how
the chapels up there?
I said, so how are we gonna get to the? And they're like, oh, you got to get on a horse. I was like, what?
So
The first time I was like, what? Okay, all right, I'll try it. And I had never been horseback riding prior to that,
that's what I was going to ask.
right? But yeah, I got on and God's mercy, I learned pretty quick and was able to our first round trip. Well, the first trip I took to that particular village called Hadaramunyana, right? The first time I went up there, it took about 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
But after a while, we were cutting it in half. Like, oh, I could get there in an hour because ride faster, a little more confident, and it was an adventure.
But I noticed on one of the pictures that's out there, they don't have saddles on the horses.
Sometimes they don't. Yeah, so you got to just kind of it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but I required it after the first time I tried without. Yeah, because it's difficult. I didn't grow up riding horses, so that's not something that I really do need a saddle.
And then the horses, aren't they pretty much higher? So how do you get up on a horse?
They would put it next to a rock. You get on top of the rock and jump on. Yeah, that's how they kind of did it. And you know what's interesting about these horses? They're actually wild horses.
Okay.
They're not kept in a pen. They're not kept. So we'd have to tell the villagers, oh, we need 2 horses. We're going to this village. My guide or my translator would be the one to take care of that, and they would go, okay, what time? All right, good. They'd go up into the mountains, look for the horses, bring them down, and then have them ready for us. And then when we get to the village where we're going to teach or whatever, we'd get off the horses and they'd let the horses run through the mountain. I'm like, well, we still need those. They're like, no. When you need horses, we'll go ahead and get some more. And they're just wild. They're just grazed. They're just wild horses.
So they're like horses on demand.
Horses on demand. Yeah. Yeah.
But were there ever times where you needed a horse and somehow there just wasn't anything there?
There was always horses, but there were times when it took a little longer than other. One time it took 15 minutes for him to find, but then the other time I had to wait 45 minutes for he could find one up there in the mountains. So.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's go to our viewers real quick. We do have a question from Melanie, and she just wants to know, have you tried any African game meat during your stay there?
Yes, African game meat I have tried. There's kudu, which is a huge deer with the antlers that kind of spiral up.
Mm-hmm.
That's delicious. Caldereta, kudu. And then I also tried wildebeest. I don't know if you know what a wildebeest is.
I've seen those.
Yeah, and the Africans say that, oh, that's basically a bunch of animals put together, and their main purpose in existence is to feed all the top predators.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of make fun of the wildebeest. But the wildebeest I've tried in the form of their version of the beef jerky, which they call biltong.
Okay.
It's called biltong in South Africa. Delicious. So I've tried some game meat.
Very good. And then Jane Manahan had asked, because she said she wants to go see the pyramids. So I know Egypt is in Africa, but have you actually been to the pyramids?
Unfortunately, that's in a different district. That's northern Africa in the country of Egypt. Right? It's right there on the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I hear, the pyramids are amazing. Go check it out. I would encourage all people to go to Africa and just to see Africa and experience it.
See, so that's like one of the continents I haven't been to yet besides
You gotta go,
Antarctica.
sister. You gotta go. You have to go.
Yeah, it's, I do get invited by some of my friends who do
Yeah.
live there,
Right.
but, I'm just, like I said, I travel by myself. And so I'm used to going to different places, but I just don't know what it would be like going
Yeah,
to Africa.
to travel there by yourself could be a challenge. It's somewhat of a wild frontier, right? Like things there are certain places that you shouldn't go, but the places that you should go are amazing. So, do your study, ask someone who's from there, ask those who used to live there. You can ask me, guys, I'll let you know. But it's an amazing experience to go to Africa.
So if you were to just suggest as a tourist
Mhm.
to go to Africa, where would you go so that they could have the experience, but also not have to worry about safety?
I would say Zambia is a nice one. Lusaka, there they have a elephant sanctuary. They also have many safaris, and the safety in that country is great. The people are amazing, Zambians. Same thing with Malawi. Malawi is also very safe, and there are a lot of things to do there. But I would say probably Zambia if you're going to a tourist. That they also have Victoria Falls there that is pretty popular. A
Okay.
lot of celebrities go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Africa's version of Niagara Falls.
Oh wow.
I actually think Victoria Falls is a little bit bigger.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, but it's an amazing, amazing place. You could say that at the hotel there, where roaming on the lawn, there's some zebras. By the way, it's zebra. It's not zebra.
Oh, that's not zebra.
No, zebra is an incorrect pronunciation of that animal. It's zebra. Which I've been corrected so many times. So now I don't make that mistake. I call it zebra. Zebra. They have hippopotamuses there. They have giraffes.
So it is giraffe.
Yeah, they have they have monkeys just roaming free. It's just you get to the hotel and you're like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that was one question that Matthew Bungay, I don't know if I'm saying his name right,
Yeah,
but that's one of the stuff he was asking was, what animals are just roaming free?
Yeah, if you drive through rural Africa, which I've done many times, you'll see animals just kind of next to the highway or crossing the highway. You have all of these amazing different species of deer. Some of them are as big as you get a normal dog, and some of them are just huge, like look like ponies. These different species of deer. You have monkeys. You have sometimes you'll see rhinos, elephants.
Okay.
You'll see those animals. There in rural Africa. Yeah. So don't run out of gas.
One of the questions that Renz is asking is, did the mules have cup holders?
Cup holders. I didn't take the time to investigate if they had cup holders. I was just so amazed at the task that it did on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it was an amazing experience to see that.
That's pretty cool. So we do have a lot of people greeting today. We've got viewers from Thailand, from the Philippines, of course, all over Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma. So we got a few. Somebody asked, what is healthcare like in Africa?
Healthcare. You would be surprised. You would be surprised. The one that would ask that question. Healthcare. Well, depends on the country. But I would honestly, comparing healthcare here, we have good healthcare here in the U.S., but in Africa, you really feel the care part of it, not the care part of it. There's no such thing as copays in Africa.
So do they have insurance?
They have insurance, and if you have one of their top tier insurances, everything is covered. There's no copay. You go in to see the doctor, they take care of you. They give you if you need medicines or some kind of prescription, you go to the pharmacy. That's all covered. You don't have anything to pay. Visits, chiropractic, dental, vision. That's all. You don't pay anything out of pocket.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like there's a stark contrast compared to the healthcare here in the U.S. But there is healthcare in Africa.
Wow. And then, so we have another question from Kenneth Owens. He's asking, have you been to Madagascar?
Yes, Madagascar was under my care as well. So we frequented Madagascar. It's nothing like what you see in the cartoon Madagascar.
And that's what I was going to ask.
Nothing like it. But Madagascar is an amazing place. French-speaking country.
Oh, wow.
French-speaking country. Famous for their vanilla.
Okay.
They have the best vanilla in the world. So Madagascar was a beautiful place. Some challenges because they speak French, and the people there, the Malagasy, they're amazing.
And so, food wise, what is the staple over there? Because like with most Asian countries, rice is a staple.
Oh, yeah.
So, what about in Africa? What's over there?
In Africa, their staple food, from what I experienced, right, whether it be in Tanzania, it's Tanzania, by the way, not Tanzania. Right?
We're just saying all these things wrong.
Tanzania, right? Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi, South Africa, Lesotho, that whole region, their staple food is they have different names in each country.
Okay.
They have in South Africa it's called pap. In Malawi and Zambia it's called shima. And if you go to Tanzania, it's called ugali.
And what is it?
It's basically very finely ground corn.
Okay.
Yeah, they grind it so fine, like it's like a powder, and then they cook it up. And it's almost like for our viewers who are Filipino, like it's almost like puto.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's almost like that, but it has more of a sticky and a wet texture.
Okay.
Where you grab it and you kind of squish it in your hand,
Uh-huh.
and then you dip it in what they like to call shakalaka. It's
Is that a
called
real
shakalaka.
word?
It really is. I'm not making it up, I promise. Boom shakalaka, right? No,
Yeah.
but shakalaka is actually a real word. It's basically like tomato, onion, garlic stew, and then
Okay.
they dip it there and they eat it. That's basically main uh, their main food there.
Okay.
If to us it's rice, to them it's a very they call it maize meal. The funny thing is, you know, me and my family, we really started really liking it.
Yes.
And we were so thrilled to see that they sold maize meal on this very popular online market.
Yes, our online market.
Right. So yeah, we will continue eating that.
Okay.
It's really good with grilled chicken, by the way.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then what else, like Filipinos have adobo,
Right.
Spain's got paella.
Right.
What is something that you get there besides that?
It's
Corn.
chicken. It's chicken.
Oh, chicken.
They love grilled chicken. They love to. We call it barbecue, but
Okay.
over there they call it braai. 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 They like the braai chicken, and they've perfected it. It's delicious.
So is it like a marinade?
It's like the marinade they usually use is peri peri.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have a place here in Dallas, a restaurant that actually sells that.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say the name, but I'm not going to say. But it's yeah. So we're excited to go check that place out. It's the same exact restaurant in Africa that we go to. They have a branch here.
Uh-huh.
I think they only have one or two branches in the U.S. and one happens to be here in Dallas. So thank you.
And so I'm assuming that a lot of the food there is fresh, because they probably don't have a lot of
Yeah,
refrigerators.
everything is organic in Africa, for the most part, because they do not. Uh, Maybe I don't know. They don't plan to budget for those extra like chemicals or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you pick up some vegetables from the supermarket, the well-known supermarkets,
Mhm.
when you pick up vegetables or fruits, you need to consume those within the next day or two because they go bad. They don't have a lot of chemicals on it.
Yeah.
Same with the meat. But the meat, the vegetables, very high quality, and yeah.
Now, was there something, like when you first got there, was there something that people offered you that you were kind of hesitant to try, but then now you're kind of glad you did?
Uh, yeah, yeah. There were some foods that were questionable, mainly only because of the way it looked, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, some of their chicken dishes, I was just like, ooh, that one's kind of suspect. but I'm glad that I tried it because now we love African cuisine, me and my family. So, we're even looking for. Sometimes we go online to look for African restaurants to see if what they have.
So besides chicken,
Yeah,
because like in Australia,
yeah,
they do like kangaroo jerky and all that.
right.
So was there
It's that one that I mentioned earlier, like wildebeest.
oh
It's
well
like
do
I
we
don't know wildebeest.
yeah.
I seen that in a popular cartoon with this lion. I don't know if I want to try this, but glad I did. It was, I was expecting it to be gamey, but it wasn't.
That's
Gamey, the way that they know how to prepare it. It's one of their staple foods as well, so they know how to prepare it. It's delicious.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I do have a few viewers who are saying hello. Your good friend Christian is saying hello.
The Christian,
So yes, we
yes,
we miss him here.
yeah, we do.
Um, and like I said, we have people from Canada,
Right,
from Kamavaya, which Kamanava,
Kamanava, yeah,
Kamanava,
Kamanava, yeah,
sorry, and then of course Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Mhm. I even have somebody from Sacramento on right now.
Hello, Sacramento.
It's Eileen.
Hello, Sister Eileen. Nice to hear from everyone. It's great that they continue to view. Continue to view. Let's grow our viewership.
Maybe if we have you here every week, they'll watch. And maybe
Try.
maybe you could entertain us while you're on
Hey,
the show.
oh, I don't know.
Okay. Another one is safety, safety wise.
Safety.
What are the safety precautions you have to take depending on where you travel in Africa?
Just like anywhere else, you should be vigilant, especially in a place that you're not familiar with. Now, in Africa, again, safety is an issue in some places, but in other places it's not. But I think Africa overall kind of gets a bad rap. They get bad press about how unsafe it is. But you would be surprised that some parts of Africa are a lot safer than even here, our home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I wouldn't allow negative press or whatever is going around about Africa to
Mm-hmm.
deter anyone to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Go visit. It's a beautiful place. People are beautiful. We miss it. Um, yeah, but just be vigilant. Just like anywhere else, be vigilant in places that you are not familiar with, and also do your study. Ask around. Ask the local people, and they will be informing you greatly in regards to the safety.
So you said you were in South Africa also.
Yes,
How long were you there for?
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that more modern than like the other towns of Africa?
I would say, well, South Africa is probably one of the more advanced countries in Africa, infrastructure-wise.
Okay.
You get to Johannesburg and you think you're in the U.S.
Oh, really?
You visit Cape Town and you think you're in the U.S.
Wow.
or in Europe. It's the infrastructure is great in South Africa. They have some challenges, sometimes with the electricity. They need to upgrade their systems, you know. But brownouts.
Uh-huh.
That's something that's common in Africa, no matter where you are.
Okay.
But other than that, you'd be surprised how beautiful it is. It's just a beautiful. Even Zambia is up to speed. Zambia is up to speed. The capital city of Lusaka,
Mhm.
a beautiful city. But yeah, it's not what people think. Even when I found out first that hey, you're going to Africa, I was like, ooh, uh-oh. Like I'm picturing huts,
Yes.
animals roaming around, and dusty dirt roads,
Uh-huh.
villages. But I couldn't have been more wrong.
Okay.
When I got to Johannesburg, I was like, whoa, this place is awesome. Look
Yeah.
at this place. And so, it's not what many people think. Um, they would be surprised of how developed it is.
And I know like with on TV, they show people who go on safaris and they can actually go up close to animals.
Right,
Without doing a safari,
right.
is there a way to see these animals up close?
Yeah, just drive around.
And
Just kidding.
they'll just come up to
No,
you?
they have things called game drives, which I guess you could kind of consider a safari, but you actually use your own car and you go through the park. you see the animals, they come up to your car and all that. Those are called game drives, and those are pretty cool.
Okay.
Safaris, you'll definitely see the animals because the guides know where they are.
Hmm.
But on your own, like I said, if you drive through rural Africa, you will see many animals. You will see many animals. Thinking you're on a safari, but you're not. You're just driving through to get from point A to point B. There's animals everywhere.
And usually, is it pretty safe to be around them? I mean, what are things you shouldn't do to anger the animals?
Well, don't provoke them. Don't throw anything at them. Uh, Stay in your car, no matter how docile or gentle the animal looks. They're still wild animals. Stay in your car. Admire them from a distance.
Hmm.
Admire them from the safety of your enclosed vehicle. But don't just be smart. As just common sense. They're wild animals, and they'll if you walk up to them, they might look at you as food. So
And that was another thing.
Yeah.
Like if you had food in your car, is that
Yeah.
something that they could sense?
probably, but they won't bother you. These wild animals, they're more afraid of humans than most things. So as we admire them from a distance, they're also looking at us in curiosity from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the animals you've seen,
Mhm.
which did you find like the most interesting? Like
Lions,
why lions?
because there's just something about when a lion roars and you're
Mhm.
there, like you don't just hear it, you actually feel it go through your body. You're just like, oh my gosh, that was a lion, that roar, that low bass and
Yeah.
but they're in a place called Kwakwa.
Oh, I've heard of that place. Someone told me
It's
about
with a
that place.
click. You have to say with a click when people look at you weird. Kwakwa. Oh, it's a tourist. But it's called Kwakwa.
Yes.
Right? In South Africa, they have this place called My Little Africa.
Okay.
Right? And the gentleman who owns it, right? He's had these lions since they were cubs. They're all full grown now.
Okay.
But when you see him go in the cage to feed them,
Uh-huh.
it's just like they're puppies. But I mean, these animals are they're huge. They're full grown lions, and they're acting like puppies with the owner. And so sometimes, he allows visitors to come in, but he's like, "Do you want to come in?" I was just like, "No, no, I'm good, I'm good." And he was like, "No, come in, come in." I was just like, "Ah, I'm tempted. I want
Yeah.
to experience." He's like, "But," and he's looking at me dead in my eyes. "You need to listen to everything I tell you. Every instruction I give, you need to follow it right away." So I'm just like, "No, I don't want to go in anymore." But it was a great experience to get in to actually touch a lion and to have the lion rubbing up on you, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
But great experience. Those are experiences that you might not be able to experience for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So you know I was really in Africa.
That's pretty cool. So we do have one last question
Yeah.
from Emmanuel, and he wants to know how can you tell the difference between a male zebra and a female zebra?
Well, if you got eyes,
So their stripes are not different.
No, from what I know, no, 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 no. I don't. I'm not a veterinarian, or I don't know, but I guess just the common sense what to look at.
Yeah. Well, he was thinking stripes were different.
Oh, no, no, no. Actually, from what I know, the stripes aren't different. Maybe they are. I don't know, but I'll research. I'll look it up on the internet. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for our time. So
Oh.
before we go, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the show, and hopefully we can have you on again.
Glad to be here to support it.
Now, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
All right. Shout out to my lovely wife, Sister Diane, and my kids, sister Audrey, brother Elijah, sister Yan Yan, our 2-year-old. To the District of South Central States, the
Yes.
greatest districts ever. Continue to support this program. Shout out to the church administration, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you for the great love, the great concern that we feel from you, and also from Brother Angelo Eranio Manalo. Thank you so much for programs like this and for leading us in the activities of the church.
Okay. And I want to give my shout out to my sisters because I think they're actually watching this time. I also want to give out to a shout out to my friend Jewel because he's
All
actually in
right.
Africa.
Awesome.
He's in Uganda
Brother
and
Jewel.
he keeps asking me to visit, but I haven't done that.
All right.
But we want to thank everyone for tuning in next week, same time, same place,
Yeah.
9 a.m. Central Time. And before we go, we always want to say thank you to our CFO coordinator and SEPSI president, Brother Angelo Iranio Manalo, and to our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you so much, and we will see you all next week.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
All right. Have a great day, guys.